Hey everybody, here's one by request. I've had a lot of comments on a couple of my Great Pyramid videos on the Red Pyramid and the Bent Pyramid at Dashur, about a half-hour drive south of the Great Pyramids of Giza, and I thought I would make a video on each one of those. And today it's on the Bent Pyramid, and I've talked briefly on the Bent Pyramid when some cosmic particle testing came out on it that they were doing in Egypt. But here you see the picture of the Bent Pyramid, and obviously it's called the Bent Pyramid because the angle changes. I believe it's from 52 degrees to 45 degrees up towards the top. Those numbers might not be totally accurate, but that's the general idea. And theory by Egyptologists is the architect, when building this pyramid, got up to this level and realized, hey, we made a mistake, so we need to change the angle. And I believe that theory put out by Egyptologists should be highly questioned. And we know the Great Pyramid of Giza, there are mathematics incorporated into that structure, and that's undeniable. So maybe this change in angle is some sort of representation of a mathematics principle. That's something that we just cannot overlook because of the way the ancient Egyptians thought and represented things in their temples and pyramids. And the age of this, here you see the change in angle. The age of this pyramid should be highly questioned. It is associated with Sneferu about 4,500 years ago, but it has a lot of the original things that the Great Pyramid has, such as casing stones and chambers and stuff like that, and things I will show you in just a second. But I believe the chronology of some of these pyramids should be highly questioned. And it just appears to me that pharaohs that came along later just attached their legacy to some of these original structures, because we don't see any of the hieroglyphs or cartouches or scarabs inside of the pyramid that denotes they were built by a certain pharaoh. And these pharaohs were highly, egomaniacs is the word that kind of comes to my mind. And if they would have built an incredible structure like this, they would have put their name all over it, just as they would have up at Giza. But there is nothing like that except some forged cartouches that are done improperly. And there is actually a red cartouche of Sneferu somewhere around the Bent Pyramid that, that's really all we have to go on. And it was poorly done. I just wanted to mention that. But here you see the internal structure and the outer casing stones. And I believe this pyramid has more casing stones than any other pyramid. So the architects on this pyramid really knew what they were doing. And I really don't think that they made a mistake and tried to change the angle when they were over halfway done building the pyramid. Now, here is an internal passageway in the Bent Pyramid. And here you see a little temple that was built outside of it. And I believe on a stela that was once here, Sneferu's name was on it. And I believe he just tried to attach his legacy to one of these original structures, just as Khufu did up at Giza. And here you see, I will leave these links below, and here you see some internal work. This gorbled ceiling is reminiscent of the Grand Gallery in the Great Pyramid. And here you see it again. And there are just things here that look like this could be one of the original structures in Egypt. And the chronology is just totally wrong. Connecting passageways going underneath the pyramid. And I will leave this link below. I'm not going to read it all, but this pyramid is of incredible technology, and just the mind effort that went into building this pyramid is amazing, just as it is up at Giza. And I really haven't investigated this as much as I should, but I just think there are serious questions that should be asked. Now, let's zoom into the Bent Pyramid on Google Earth here. And when you look at this on film footage and pictures, it looks like it's just out in the middle of the desert with nothing around it. But as you can see here on Google Earth, there are many things buried by the sands of time here. There is a small satellite pyramid off the south end of this perfectly north-south aligned pyramid. And this is a kind of a poorly built, smaller pyramid, and I believe Senefru could have built that when he tried to attach his legacy to the Ben Pyramid. And here you see it. It is perfectly aligned to north-south, just as the Great Pyramid is. And also, just as the pyramids up at Giza, there is an ancient causeway that has been kind of lost to time, but you can clearly see it here. And it leads down to what is called the Valley Temple, just as up at Giza. So those features cannot be ignored, and people have said that there is a second causeway leading from the Valley Temple down to the Nile, maybe. Well, I think here you can kind of see it. And I believe the sands of time has just kind of buried it. And if this was all dug out here, I think we would have an ancient structure leading down to the Nile from this Valley Temple that is obviously connected to the Ben Pyramid. And that just looks like the structures up at Giza. So I think the chronology of this place should be highly questioned, as the theories put forward by Egyptologists describe them. But you can see below the sand here, there are many things that we can just get a hint of today. But I think the causeway, the Valley Temple, and then the further causeway going down to the Nile, I think that should not be ignored. So, just in short, I think there are many questions that should be asked when looking at some of these structures. And when you have maybe what is an original structure built, just like the ones up at Giza, and then you have civilization living around it for, a few thousand years, history gets muddled. And it seems Egyptologists try to put out the easiest explanation and the simplest explanation for everything. And I'm not saying all Egyptologists' work is bad. I've learned many things from some Egyptologists that people have a problem with. But I have serious problems with them when they ignore certain things. But just taking you out at the end of this video, John Anthony West is somebody who I highly respect and has been in my thoughts a lot lately. He is battling cancer. I will leave a link for a video I did. But thanks to a guy by the name of Carlos, and I will leave his channel link below, and the link to this full video that I took this clip from, and maybe a couple others that he has done. But please sub Carlos' channel. He has many videos of John Anthony West talking around the structures in Egypt. I just think they are highly educational. And John Anthony West, if you have watched his Magical Egypt series, you know that that is absolutely fantastic, and maybe the person I have learned more from about things in Egypt. Though with him, as any other researcher, I don't agree with every single thing he says, but there's nobody I probably learn more from. But let's get a better look at the Ben Pyramid. Let's go down to ground level. Please check out Carlos's channel and the links for the full video. But let's go down here and let's get a better look. Hope you thought this was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.
Look at the light reflection on the Indian hat too. It's lighter now. Oh, yeah. Look, it's a very nice. Yes. Wow. It was black when we were in the bus.
The Stupid Antiquities Department has blurred the evidence, actually, by putting in all of this totally unnecessary fill in the cracks, that nothing was in danger of falling, no matter what. But this is one of the few good remaining instances of it. You see, with a regular pyramid, Giza and Khafra and Menkaura, they lay down a bed of a course, and then they put the next course in one block back, so that and the higher up you go, it doesn't matter how high you go, each block is resting on just the block below it. And so there's no matter if it gets to be 100 blocks, 100 blocks high or 200 blocks high, there's no more stress on the individual blocks than its own course, because there's no stone resting on top of it except for the core, and then it doesn't matter because it's all self-supporting. But here, the blocks, and here's a good example of it. Here the blocks are keyed in, and the interior, you see, are the interior of the core masonry, and so each casing stone juts out from the core masonry and is keyed in by the block on top of it, so it's locked into place like this. And the higher up you go, the harder the lock gets. So the stress on these stones here must be absolutely prodigious. And you see that they're when you look up it, if you get a bead on it, you see that there's zero ripple to it. I mean, if you did a building out of stainless steel or a building out of sheet glass, there'd be ripples all over with this kind of, with a thing of this size. Here, here where I am is not bad, but there are other places where you get, you get just the eyesight up here, and you see that it's perfect. They're put into place. This is not the best of them, but almost perfectly. I mean, these are big blocks. I'm not sure exactly what they weigh, but probably between 6 and 8 tons. And they have almost no tolerance between them. So this is a miracle of engineering. And when I'm here with architects and contractors and masons and people who work with stone, they're absolutely mind-boggled. Only the Egyptians, the Egyptologists aren't. They go, well, they just decided to do it this way. No, this is something inexplicable and perfect. And even, I mean, if you're familiar enough with the pyramid, which you wouldn't be really, but I mean, you spent as much time as I have, it's clear that the core masonry here is of a much higher order than even the Great Pyramid, where the casing stones are fabulous, to perfection. But the core masonry, much rougher, and the core masonry of the Red Pyramid, when we go there, is much rougher, crummier limestone. So why, this is supposed to be earlier. How are they doing this earlier with a method that is almost otherworldly? And then they made a mistake and they were going up too steep. This is nonsense. They changed the angle. Schwaller thought he was doing preliminary studies, but had to leave Egypt, when the revolution happened, 52. And I don't know if he was planning on doing further studies, but he said provisionally this was two golden section relationships, and I forget exactly what they were. Golden section squared, and the other one was the golden section, some other aspect of the golden section. And he said this was just provisional, but it's as good provisional as anyone else's.
Look at the line of you see the 3 cornerstones here. They're L-shaped. It's double-sided. You see the line? It's super exact. And it drops really. Well, this defines it. This decides the corner.
You don't see it that well from this side. You see it on the other side where the 2 angles meet. Absolutely, like cut by a razor.